So, do you feel any remorse? Do you think she deserved it? Or where is your head at right now? I can't expect you to understand. I mean, they were my grandparents, right? Look, I feel awful. I feel like the lowest scum on earth. But at the same time, it's just sort of, I don't know how to explain it. I'm heartbroken, but it's strange. I'm sad, sure, which is part of why I wanted to end my life. Meet 17-year-old Cassandra Bourge. Cassandra has just been detained for questioning following the savage double homicide of her grandparents, 63-year-olds Randall and Wendy Bourge. As investigators begin to peel back the layers of what transpired inside that residence, they realize they aren't dealing with a teenager who snapped in a moment of passion. They are staring into the eyes of a cold calculator who orchestrated every step and was already plotting her next kill when the law intervened. Whatever. Yeah. Honestly, the hospital food was getting unbearable. I can imagine. Did it get to the point where you lost your appetite? Let me just crack this seal for you so you don't have to hold your hands up so high. Thanks a lot. Randall and Wendy Bourge had opened their home to their granddaughter Cassandra when she was 16, after her own family life collapsed. They stepped up as her legal guardians. They were 63, retired, and trying their hardest to provide a stable environment for a volatile teenager. Yet, within that first year, police were dispatched to the home more than 30 times. Cassandra was a habitual runaway. The violence escalated. She assaulted her grandmother on one occasion and later broke her grandfather's ribs, landing her on probation. As the situation deteriorated, Cassandra linked up with 19-year-old Johnny Ryder, feeding him stories about her family, her desperate desire to escape, and the dark lengths she was willing to go to. So, clearly, I'm the one handling everything that's gone down this past week. You following? Look, I'm not trying to distress you or make you rehash the trauma, but I need to clear up a few things. Do you recall when the officer read you your rights and everything? Yeah? Okay. Did it all make sense to you? Yes. All right. I'm going to run through them one more time, just to ensure he didn't miss anything. Can't be too careful. After that, I've got a few inquiries. Nothing heavy, just reviewing details. Sound good? All right. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to consult an attorney and have them present during questioning. If you can't afford legal counsel, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning. You can invoke these rights at any moment and refuse to answer or make statements. Pardon me, do you comprehend these rights? Yes. Okay. Are you willing to discuss, I guess? Yeah, sure, whatever. Ask me anything. I'm open. She is only 17. Her wrists are wrapped in gauze, wounds from a suicide attempt during the SWAT standoff. She just polished off a complete McDonald's combo and waived her right to an attorney without a second thought. The Miranda warning was just a box to check, but her upcoming confession is far from routine. Detective, so Johnny, your boyfriend. How long have you been with him? About 3 months. 3 months. How did you two cross paths? Met him via an ex who pawned my phone. That's payback, I guess. True. I suppose I met him when they swung by to pick me up to hang out. We ended up going to Tybee Island for a couple of days. Nice. Did you grab a hotel room or just camp on the sand? Yeah, we got a room. They covered the bill and invited me along. I was like, sure, let's hit the beach. Detective? And this was with Johnny's relatives? Nah, just me, Johnny, Tyler, and a guy called Cy. Got it. So, you and Johnny, were you too close? Was it a deep connection or just a typical high school fling? I'm still in love with him. I genuinely care. I know that probably sounds like a cheesy line, but is it real love? Yeah. He actually told me this story once. We drove up to Atlanta after Tybee Island. We found this parking deck where you could overlook the entire city. He said that while we were sitting there, he glanced over at me for a second, and I looked back. He told me all he could see was me, surrounded by this purple aura. Apparently, purple signifies true love. He claimed that was the moment he knew like love at first sight. It's sweet, I guess? I don't know. He actually got married to this psycho, and now she's claiming I'm stalking her. I've literally met the girl 2 times. It's ridiculous. I spoke with Johnny a few days back. She definitely sounds unhinged. But is he okay? He's all right. Sends his best. But is he really doing okay? No, he's fine. Honestly, he's in better shape than you are. The cuts weren't deep or anything serious. So he didn't actually go through with it? Mm-hmm. Damn. I could have sworn he was hurt worse than me. We were in the bathroom doing it together. He wouldn't stop, even when I begged him to. Notice her reaction when the detective mentions Johnny is in better shape than she is. She immediately claims she thought he'd sustained much heavier damage from their suicide pact. The pair attempted to take their own lives as the SWAT team breached the perimeter. Yet here she sits, worried sick about him. That dynamic will become crucial when investigators try to pin down the mastermind behind the plot. All right, let's back up and start from scratch regarding the incident. Start from when you initially ran away. Was that the 31st? Or maybe the 28th? Something like that. I didn't exactly run away though. My grandmother kicked me out. See, here's what happened. I was just hanging out with Johnny and our friend Sabrina. I went back home to make curfew because I didn't want to violate my probation terms. My grandfather was already asleep, but my grandmother started going off on me the second I walked in. She told me, "If you don't like it here, we'll find another place for you to live." It came completely out of nowhere. She was furious for no reason. So I told her, "If you're planning to send me away, I'll just pack up and find my own place to go." So you took off, came back, found your grandparents at home, and that's when the argument started? Wait, hold on. You had a blowout with your grandmother, right? And then I walked out. Okay, sorry, I'm following now. Once you left the house, where did you stay? I was with Johnny. We were sleeping in his car. So when did you decide to head back to your grandparents' place? Middle of the night. Maybe 2 or 3 days later. 2 or 3 days. She claims her grandmother kicked her out. That argument, whatever triggered it, was the last conversation Wendy Bourge would ever have with her granddaughter. When Cassandra returned days later, it wasn't to apologize or talk. She arrived at 1 in the morning, armed with a tire iron and a scheme she'd been hatching with her boyfriend for days. Do you remember if it was Saturday or Sunday? Can you give me an exact? I'm not sure. I honestly lost track of what day it was when we broke into the house. Before the act, did you and Johnny meet up at a park or somewhere to discuss the plan? We went to Beach Park to talk it over. It wasn't my idea initially. How did the topic even come up? What was said exactly? What was the context? Well, first he asked me, "Are you afraid of dying?" I told him no. Then I asked him the same thing. "Are you afraid to die?" He said no. Then he started fantasizing about how we could run away together, that whole dream. Then he looked at me and asked, "Would you kill your grandparents?" I paused for a moment, completely taken aback. I asked him, "Why?" He just shrugged and said, "I don't know. I mean, he's fully aware of my history, everything I've endured with my family. He gets it. He understood that my only goal was to escape, to leave all that baggage behind and start fresh. Things with my grandparents had deteriorated. The relationship was spiraling downward fast. It got toxic. They actually pressed charges against me after we got into a physical altercation. I might have cracked my grandfather's ribs during the fight, which landed me with simple assault and battery charges. So, when the two of you met up at the park, did he walk you through a specific plan regarding how exactly you were going to execute this? What was the substance of that conversation? Well, honestly, we were trying to figure out how to get cash. He mentioned he might have an active warrant, and I wasn't sure if I had one too. My grandmother had kicked me out, pulling the exact same moves my mother used to pull. My mom would toss me out, then turn around 2 days later and report me as a runaway to the police, even though she forced me to leave. Sometimes she would physically drag me out of the house. I'd ask her, "Mom, why are you doing this?" And her response was to literally grab my belongings, shove me out the door, and dial the police. I assumed my grandmother had done the same thing, so I was operating under the assumption that I had a warrant or had already violated my probation. Johnny was in the same boat, paranoid that he'd violated his probation because he suspected his mom had called the cops on him. I don't know for sure. But the way the conversation shifted to the murders started with logistics. We asked, what time should we head over? How are we actually going to pull this off? We discussed what tools and materials we'd need to get the job done. Once we started down that road, we settled on midnight, or maybe 1:30 in the morning. Since my grandmother usually went to bed around 11:30 or 12, we decided we'd park the car down the street. The park was situated directly behind my backyard. That's where he asked me, "Would you kill your grandparents?" That was the catalyst. She hesitated, but she never said no. What follows is Cassandra walking the detectives through their strategy session, covering timelines, entry points, and weapons. This wasn't impulsive. Two teenagers sat in a public park and meticulously plotted a double homicide. Then they went to the home and waited for the lights to go dark. The detective asked, "How did you approach the house?" Cassandra replied, "We went up the deck stairs." Right, the back deck. But we were early, and my grandmother was still awake, so we retreated back down and hung out near the shed. We waited by the shed until we saw the lights go out. We stayed outside, a bit longer, just to be safe. I had my own set of keys to the house, so I just unlocked the back door. It made access incredibly easy. By back door, do you mean the basement level, or are you still talking about the one up the stairs? When you go up to the back deck, there are two entrances, one on the left and one on the right. I chose the door on the right because the left one was rigged with a sensor, you know, the kind that beeps when the connection is broken. Right, like a door chime? One that announces when a door opens, but the one you used didn't. Yeah. Cassandra. Yeah, I had actually disabled that one. It was an ancient alarm system. They'd had it for years. All you had to do was push a tab to pop the cover and remove the battery. I had actually taken the battery out a while back. Detective, why did you do that? Take the battery out? Originally? To sneak out. Plus, I hated hearing that thing go off constantly. It was incredibly annoying. Detective, okay. So you're at the back door. Did you lead the way in, or? Well, there were obstacles in the way. My grandmother usually barricaded the back door. I managed to finesse the lock on the rear entry. I cracked the door just a sliver, careful not to knock over the barricade of junk inside. Silence was key. I squeezed through the gap, cleared the obstacles, and signaled for Johnny. Once he was in, I deadbolted the door behind us. Did you linger on the ground floor, or did you proceed directly to the bedrooms? We didn't hesitate. We made a beeline for the staircase, pausing only at the bottom to listen. We strained our ears for movement. The house felt secure, so we committed to the climb. Wait, were you armed at that point? What were you carrying? I was holding, what do you call it? A mechanic's tool. For changing a wheel? A lug wrench? A tire iron. That's the one. I grabbed it from the trunk of Johnny's vehicle, his Honda. Johnny was unarmed, relying on his fists, but he carried a dark backpack loaded with supplies, rolls of industrial tape, the steel bar, and pairs of gloves. We made sure to suit up before going in. Describe the gloves. Were they surgical grade or standard work gear? Medical style. Latex. I distinctly recall they were blue. Understood. She had neutralized a security system weeks prior, allegedly to facilitate her curfew breaking. She possessed a duplicate key. She had the layout memorized, the silent entry points, the technique to turn the handle, even the clutter piled against the interior. They lurked near the garden shed, watching for the house to go dark. Once the lights died, she breached the perimeter. Cyan latex, heavy-duty tape, a steel weapon, and a grim objective. We ascended. He targeted grandfather's quarters. I took grandmother's. Right. While you were separating, could you hear the commotion from the master bedroom? Did those sounds act as your signal to begin the assault on your grandmother? Yes. He launched his attack. I could hear my grandfather screaming, the chaotic sounds of a struggle. The adrenaline hit me instantly. That's the moment I began striking my grandmother. You used the iron? I began bludgeoning her skull repeatedly. Was her face obstructed? Did she have a pillow covering her? Or perhaps near her head? She was prone, lying on her stomach. Her face was turned toward the right side of the mattress, facing away from the entrance. If you walked in, her gaze was directed at the far wall. She was blind to my approach. She never saw me coming. While he was battering my grandfather, I delivered a massive blow to the back of her cranium. That provoked a scream. Was that the initial strike? Correct. Right at the base of the skull. I focused my violence there. She managed to bite me. I believe the forensic team photographed the injury yesterday? Yes. She clamped down on my finger. I can't recall exactly which digit on my right hand. Middle finger, perhaps, or the ring finger. Got it. Now, regarding your past altercations with her, was biting a defensive habit of hers? Has she done that previously to fend you off? She has. It wasn't the first time. I never bit back, but she certainly used her teeth. Understood. Did this happen during active fights, or were they unprovoked attacks? During the arguments, I carried a scar on my hand for quite some time from a previous incident. Where did she wound you during the murder? Just the finger? Any other injuries? My arm as well. Police photographed that mark. That was the extent of it. You're in the room with the victim. When do you regroup with Johnny? Do you leave her there? What was the sequence? I began the assault. I had the tape ready. Johnny was finishing his task. The noise from his room ceased, and he entered mine. He found me with my grandmother and assisted in binding her with the adhesive. Describe the binding. Just the wrists? I taped her hands. I wrapped her entire cranium. Secured her ankles too. Were her hands restrained behind her back? Exactly like that. Yes. Did you apply restraints anywhere else? Perhaps the neck or face? Yeah. We wound the tape around her skull. It encircled her head, more or less. That was all. What was the purpose of that? Just to ensure it stayed put? Or maybe simply because we could? You mentioned binding her ankles as well. Did Johnny assist with that? I handled the majority of it. I only required his assistance because she wouldn't stop thrashing. She kept squirming, so he lent a hand. Afterwards, he returned to my grandfather's bedroom. What were you doing while he was gone? I remained with my grandmother, right there in her room. I eventually hauled her into the room where Johnny was. He ordered me to fetch weapons. I went down to the kitchen and secured 3 large blades, butcher style. From the hallway, she could hear her grandfather fighting for his life. That sound, his desperate struggle, gave her an adrenaline spike she described as the rush. That surge triggered her violence. Wendy tried to defend herself, managing to sink her teeth into her granddaughter's finger. In response, Cassandra bound the woman's wrists and ankles, then completely encased her head in tape before dragging her into the room with her husband. She then descended the stairs, returning armed with a trio of heavy kitchen knives. That was the moment he began plunging the knife into my grandpa. I had just finished dragging my grandmother in so they were together. With both of them trapped in there, I demanded the combination for her personal safe. I was aware the lockbox existed in her closet, though the contents were a mystery to me. Did she cooperate? Sort of. She started bargaining, pleading that she'd hand over cash, her keys, anything to make it stop. She promised me whatever I wanted, but she just kept repeating it over and over. Could she speak clearly with the adhesive covering her mouth? It was a muffled sound, intelligible, but barely. The words were trapped behind the tape. It wasn't sealed tight. It was more like, almost as if her jaw could still work enough to push the words out. While this is happening, Johnny is attacking your grandfather. Was he aiming for the torso? I'm not sure of the reason, but he wouldn't stop. He just continued striking him. Count the blows for me. Definitely over 2, more than 5, a lot more. When the attack ceased, what was your next move? We left my grandmother on the floorboards. I focused on getting the safe combination. While Johnny stood guard over them, I handled the lock. How did you acquire the numbers? She gave them up. We got the sequence from her. I entered the closet to access the safe and started rifling through the contents. I took a backpack and began cramming it with everything I found. There were packets thick with cash. We discovered roughly $1,000 stashed away, savings they had tucked aside. Were you aware that cash was in there beforehand? My grandmother had hinted at it. She once asked if handing me $1,000 would fix everything. She asked if that sum would solve my problems. I told her I had no interest in her money. She persisted with the offer. Finding the cash later, I was surprised she actually had that amount on hand. So you filled the bag. Meanwhile, Johnny remains in the bedroom with the victims. Did you re-enter and signal that you had secured the loot? Yes. I walked back in and confirmed I had the valuables. Upon hearing that, he cut my grandfather's throat. Wendy Bourge lay there, restrained and bleeding. Despite the tape encasing her skull, she continued her desperate attempt to bargain. I'll give you anything. She had tried to buy peace with that $1,000 earlier. Cassandra refused the offer then, but stole the funds regardless. She returned to the upper floor, confirming the theft. That was the cue. We then hauled my grandmother's body. We moved her to the restroom. Why move her there? No specific reason. I'm not sure why we chose the bathroom. We just did. We didn't want to drag her into the bedroom, so we settled on the bathroom. Johnny took care of her throat there. Then I hit her in the back of the head with the tire iron. Well, not the skull exactly, but the top of the spine. He kept telling me, if you hit that spot, just one solid blow, it knocks them out cold and kills them. But she played dead. I'd check on her and see her chest rising. I'd yell, Johnny, what the hell? She's still breathing. So he finally came back and delivered the final blow. It was creepy though. She was terrified. She actually lost control of her bowels. Just Let go. Oh, did she? Yeah, it was pretty gross, right? So, that final blow you mentioned with the tire iron, who swung it? You or Johnny? Johnny. She was fighting for air. Cassandra checked, saw her grandmother clinging to life, and just called Johnny back in. Wendy Bourge, 63 years old, lying on the bathroom tiles, bound and bleeding. She saved this girl when nobody else would, and Cassandra's only reaction was that it was kinda creepy. Was her throat cut before that? No, he did that part after. Got it. So the knife came last. Excuse me. So did you just leave the upstairs area then? Yeah. We shut the doors and checked the house. Then I started, stuffing clothes into bags. Johnny was pacing around, doing his thing, making sure they were actually dead and we hadn't missed anything. Then we took off and came back later. Where did you go? Just to Kroger or Publix for food? Then we went right back. We just hung out. So you stayed in the house with the bodies? Yeah, pretty much. We were in and out for a few days. Just us. I told my friends my grandparents were on a 2-week vacation. Did you invite friends over? There's a rumor you told people. Come over. I've got the place to myself, people are saying. Not a party, but I have money and the grandparents are gone. I just told people I had a free crib, but I didn't really have people over. I'd mostly say, I'll come meet you guys. Okay. After the murders, they bought groceries and returned home. They watched TV, slept there, and Cassandra even went to karate class. They bought weed with the dead woman's cards. When family texted Wendy to check in, Cassandra replied, pretending to be her grandmother. 2 corpses upstairs, normal life downstairs for 7 days. I believe people were there. Look, I'll be straight with you. We heard someone complained about the smell, and Johnny blamed a sewage backup. It's just the plumbing, he said. Did that happen? That never came up. It could be rumors. You know how kids talk. Never happened. The only people who came over were Sunshine and Alex. So they visited after you killed your grandparents? Yeah, it's all a blur. I don't need exact dates. I'm asking if, in those 7 days with the bodies upstairs, they were there? Yeah. Sunshine and Alex were there. Yes. What did you do? Just smoked weed? Did you order food? No. Okay. You didn't order food? No. Did you eat the marijuana or smoke it? I'm sorry, I don't really follow. I've never actually smoked it. Sorry, that happened before anyone came over. Okay. I actually doused them in bleach before he arrived. You poured bleach on your grandmother and grandfather? Yeah. And you left one of the empty bottles right there in the bathroom next to your grandmother? Yeah. Why did you use the bleach? Johnny told me to do it, to mask the scent. Okay, she lied about having guests. It wasn't until the detective revealed he already knew the truth that she confessed. Sunshine and Alex came to the house, hung out, and smoked, completely unaware that 2 decomposing bodies were sealed in the rooms upstairs. Before her friends arrived, Cassandra had poured bleach directly onto her grandparents' corpses to hide the smell of death. The judge at sentencing would later describe this act as one of the most horrific details she had ever witnessed in her courtroom. Yeah. See, the reason we stayed in town was because the original plan was to get both of our families. That's why what? Okay, so the plan was that we were both supposed to kill both of our families, but we started with my grandparents. That's why we went over to Johnny's place and attacked his sister and her boyfriend, because he wanted to wipe out his family too. Okay, so it's like we stayed in town for a couple days because, we needed to grab some cash. We wanted to get ready to leave, but then the plan to go to his house just didn't work out at all. It just went downhill from there. Whose idea was that? Did you discuss that at Petrie Ridge Park too? Yes, that was Johnny's idea. That's the reason he asked if I wanted to kill my grandparents, because he already wanted to kill his own family. And he was like, let's be Bonnie and Clyde. You said that? Yeah, I was like, okay, let's be Bonnie and Clyde. That was the pitch. Kill her grandparents, kill his entire family, steal the money, and drive to Florida. Cassandra even wanted to murder her own mother. Johnny talked her out of it, claiming they didn't have time to waste. If their scheme had succeeded, multiple people would be dead. They were stopped, only because the attack on Johnny's sister failed and his family managed to call 911. By the time SWAT surrounded them, both teenagers attempted to end their own lives rather than face arrest. I mean, was there ever a snapping point? I mean, do you feel bad about what happened? Do you think she deserved what happened to her? How are you feeling right now? I'm not in your shoes. You know, they were my grandparents. Yeah, I mean, I feel terrible. I feel like the worst person on the planet. But at the same time, it was kind of just like, I don't know. I mean, I feel heartbroken, but I don't know. It's really weird. Like, I'm really sad about it. And that's like one of the reasons why I wanted to, kill myself, just overdose. Because, like there was so much stuff going on between me and my grandparents already. I couldn't handle it anymore, Like you said with his follow-up question though. I mean, did they deserve it? Did grandma deserve it? Did grandpa deserve it? Or was it more about just getting away from your own family? It was more kind of just getting away. She claims she feels terrible, but watch her face when she speaks. Her voice doesn't crack. Her eyes don't tear up. She says it with the same casual tone you'd use to mention missing a dentist appointment. And then the detective asks the crucial question, did they deserve it? And she admits it was just about getting away. That isn't remorse. That is a justification. In February 2018, less than a year after the murders of Randall and Wendy Bourge, both Cassandra and Johnny appeared in court. The family chose to forego a trial. They refused to sit in a courtroom and relive the horrors inflicted on the people they loved. In exchange for guilty pleas, both Cassandra and Johnny were sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms with parole eligibility only after 60 years. At the sentencing, Judge Deborah Turner looked directly at Cassandra and said, "I just continue to be stunned that you sealed off areas to ensure the smell of decaying human flesh wouldn't be noticed, that you threw parties and ordered Chinese takeout while 2 people you had brutally murdered lay dead upstairs." At 63, Randall and Wendy Bourge were the only ones left willing to house a teenager that no one else could control. They dialed 911 over 30 times, desperate for help rather than punishment, all while offering her financial support, a sense of stability. They tried their best, but it didn't stop 17-year-old Cassandra from entering that home wielding a tire iron. I need to hear your opinion on this one. Who do you feel was actually calling the shots in this relationship? Cassandra or Johnny? Go ahead and drop your theories down below.